Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Z Nation Season 2. And wow, I'm going to tell you, the most recent episode of Z Nation, Zombaby, was just absolutely extraordinary. Lots of great things to talk about, so I'm going to get this video started right away. If you have not watched it, do not watch the video because otherwise you will be spoiled, and there are major spoilers in this episode. Okay, so the episode begins with the group traveling through Wisconsin, trying to basically get away from a herd of zombies. They still have Serena with them. And in order to get rid of the, pretty decent sized herd of zombies behind them, they make use of another, I would call it like a landmark or some kind of a symbol of tourist attraction. They used the Liberty Bell before, if you remember, in Philly. Whenever they were traveling through Philadelphia, they had the Liberty Bell go and crush zombies. This time, being that it's Wisconsin, kind of referencing the Green Bay Packers, you see like you see some of the cheese head hats being worn by some of the individuals. And I think that Wisconsin is known for producing a lot of cheese. I think it's the dairy state, but don't quote me on that. But apparently there was the world's largest, it was a wheel of cheese. And they let it go, and it goes flying and rolling down the hill and taking zombies with it. I mean, it was funny. I mean, it's really nice when Z Nation adds that little bit of humor to a bleak situation. I just really enjoyed it. That was amazing, and I got to give kudos to them. I hope we see more, tourist attraction landmarks, things like that being used in the show. I think it really helps their image a lot. Um, so of course, they have the problem of Serena, who is, about to give birth. She's very pregnant with the baby, throwing up all the time, and she's really going back and forth between like this morning sickness slash, oh, I'm hungry, can I get something to eat, to being, kind of normal, to being all funny and silly when she was joking about the zombie bear with Murphy. She does have a nice, connection with Murphy, and the two of them, they really do connect in a very interesting way. I think it's pretty funny because she is a bit, ecstatic, enthusiastic. I mean, she's, sitting next to him like, oh yeah, we had this guy one time come to the camp, and he was a, a fighter, and we said, hey, can you take on the zombie bear? She's just a ball of energy, and I do love her. So they end up having to figure out what they're going to do with her. They get attacked by bandits, and Serena is able to use her instincts to kick in. She grabs a machine gun, blows the bandits away, and Vasquez tells them about this Mennonite society that's nearby that has a barn. It's a farm that he was aware of. And they want to get her somewhere safe because, of course, if she is carrying Murphy's child, this child most likely has the virus and the cure flowing through it, and you don't want to let that chance pass if, say, something would happen to Murphy. So they want the baby to be born. So they do go to the Mennonite camp, and there are actually several Mennonites that are there. They end up just trying to fend off the zombies, trying to survive. And the group does kill a bunch of zombies in this episode, but it turns out that they are infected, and several of the Mennonites are affected with anthrax. And if you're not familiar with what anthrax is a bacteria that most of the time it affects plants and animal species, but it can be spread to humans. And it's a very interesting type of bacteria because it's actually spread through spores. You don't necessarily get it from like coughing on somebody or anything. It's more like it attaches to your clothing and you breathe it in, and you're standing next to somebody and they breathe it in. And, if you ingest thousands of spores of anthrax, you get sick with it, and it basically just causes these lesions on your skin. It's a very terrible thing. It's been used in very unfortunate circumstances. However, we have found treatment for it. Louis Pasteur invented a anthrax vaccine as well as some antibiotics. So if you take them and you get treatment relatively quickly, your chance of surviving goes way, way up. But unfortunately, because of the anthrax being in, the environment, when they were killing zombies, you just see this puff of smoke just, come up. It was the anthrax, and 10,000 ends up getting infected with anthrax. And he's down, and a lot of the other Mennonites have also been infected, and part of the problem is they don't have a lot of medicine. And in fact, they've been rationing it amongst the various different individuals. So people are only getting like half of a pill. Well, that's not going to do the trick. You need a certain amount of it. So Addie, Vasquez, and the Mennonite leader, I can't remember what his name was, but he was a pretty, young man who was the leader of the Mennonites because most of the older ones had died or were sick. And they decide to go to town to go to the pharmacy to get some medicine. And before they leave, we see a scene where Vasquez, he goes behind a barn and he's listening to a radio. And we hear that Spanish broadcast, or it's some kind of a Spanish broadcast. And he's listening to it. Makes you wonder exactly what was he doing? Who was he listening to? Because the description of Vasquez's character is that he has questionable motives. So we really don't know if he is all in with this cure. He may have some kind of ulterior motive that when they get to a certain spot in the map, he has plans to either take the baby now or take Murphy away. And he talked about the highest bidders back in the season premiere, and it makes me wonder if that is still part of his plans. But we don't find out too much about that, and he could have just been listening in. It might have been the Zeros, it might have been a Scorpion, lots of possibilities. But it's definitely something that we'll have to wait and see what all that was about. So they do go to the town, and they go to the pharmacy, and they end up finding this guy inside who has been using the drugs. He's unfortunately a drug addict, and he's used up all the drugs. I think he was using heroin, was my assumption there. And he wakes up and he asks Addie and Vasquez to kill him. He says he just can't go on anymore, and he's happy that some people came along. And of course, Addie is like, no, we don't just kill people. That's not what we do. And really, this episode was a lot of ethical dilemmas that really, for the first time, we really see, how desperation can turn these individuals into something that they don't want to be. And I mean, I'll get to the bigger thing later, but I mean, you really saw for the first time, are they really being the heroes, or are they, in a sense, doing something that, doesn't make them any better than anybody else out there? But, Addie basically, says, no, we're not going to kill you. And the guy picks up a weapon, charges at them, and Vasquez, shoots him and kills him. And the Mennonite leader is very, upset by that. They are peaceful people. They are not ones to attack people. They are not violent. You see that with the Amish. You see that with the Mennonites. They're individuals in their community. They don't believe in violence, no matter what. So even if somebody were to come and cause them violence, they won't defend themselves. And Vasquez and Addie are kind of taken aback by that. They're like, wait, you wouldn't defend yourself? And he says, sometimes, he's surprised that they're more afraid of dying than they are of killing somebody. It's really a reversal of the beliefs. You have like Addie and Vasquez who they don't want to kill people, but if they have to, they're going to do it. And then you have people like the Mennonites who, no matter what, if it's their time, it's their time. So they go back empty-handed, without much of the medicine, and Addie ends up falling sick from the anthrax. So now they have two people laid up, and all the while they have to stay because Serena goes into labor. She ends up going into labor. She's in the barn, and like they predicted and like they showed in the trailer, it was in a sense a lot of allusion to Christ's birth. They in a sense were adding elements into the plot and into the story to make it almost look like, a parody is what I would call it of Jesus's birth, because it was in the barn. They were near a manger. There were zombie cows, zombie donkeys. I think there was a zombie sheep or a zombie goat somewhere around there. And then, to top it all off, you have a zombie camel and three zombies that remind you of the three wise men. And then, of course, later on, I think that the Mennonites do die, or if they don't, then there were other ones around there, because you have like people that look like the Mennonites coming into the barn later as zombies. So, you have kind of like zombie shepherds, if you will. So they really added a lot of elements there. And of course, Murphy and Doc and Warren are there for Serena to guide her along. Murphy does a really good job of, keeping her calm and keeping her going and keeping her motivated. And they have some very, interesting techniques in order to help get the baby born. But while that's going on, Warren and Vasquez are faced with a decision. The fact of the matter is that there's not enough medicine to save everybody, and the Mennonites do have some, but they don't want Addie and 10,000 to die, and they reason with themselves that, well, with the way that the Mennonites are going, they're all going to die anyways, or at least some of them will, because even with you rationing the medicine, people are still going to die. So they make the very, it's a hard decision, but they decide to take the medicine away from the Mennonites. And the Mennonites, of course, they pray for them and say, hey, we can't act violently, and, hope for the best of them. And Warren's reasoning is that, hey, the mission does, in a sense, come over the lives of some other individuals. And we've seen that, that it's a very important mission, and we've seen that people have given their lives for it already, with Hammond and Garnett and Mac, and, a couple of other people that they've, met in their travels. And, that's the thing, is sometimes you have a mission like that it may mean more than just, other individuals' lives. It's sad when it comes to that. But they do take the medicine, and they give it to Addie and 10,000, and of course they both live. And finally, near the end of the episode, Serena does give birth to a baby girl. And of course, the baby looks like Murphy in a sense. It has the kind of zombie look, like the dead skin, I guess you would call it. Just look at Murphy and then look at the baby. It's pretty much the same kind of skin tone that they have that looks kind of zombie-ish. But it appears almost that the baby does, I think, have both, human and zombie qualities, because she's not totally, zombie. There were moments in the episode where her zombie side, in a sense, showed itself. When the zombies were around, like she made like this zombie face. Her teeth came out, like that a little bit, and she shrieked and moaned like a zombie would. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I also heard her coo, like make those little giggle noises that babies make. So it would appear that there are both, both sides in her, kind of like there is with Murphy. But unfortunately, one of the downsides of having the baby, and of course, the baby actually, it was actually smart enough to bite its umbilical cord. You know how you have to, disconnect the umbilical cord when a baby is born. It does it itself, which was kind of a little like shocking in a sense. But unfortunately, the other thing that's going on is that zombies are attracted to the baby. I mean, when they see her, it really almost, reminds you of like when you read the Bible, how followers of Jesus are very connected to him. And of course, it's no different than any other religion. You have stories and things to show that people were devoutly, devoted to various individuals. And again, I'm not preaching anything. I'm not telling people what they should and shouldn't believe. Just saying that, when you look at the story, there are some parallels there, and it kind of was the same thing here, because if you see this baby as kind of like the zombie messiah, like they quoted it as, you would have zombies that would be drawn to it as a follower, almost kind of like in a sense how they're drawn to Murphy. But the zombies end up attacking, and the group doesn't have a lot of supplies to defend themselves. And of course, they're in a barn, so they're pretty much, cornered. And Serena, she does survive the birth, but in order to save the group and to save her child, she ends up dying. Unfortunately, she's very brave. She attacks the zombies. She beats them up, but nobody really had any weapons, and she ends up getting bitten, and she turns, and Warren does give her mercy, and it absolutely devastates Murphy. I mean, this is really one of the few times where we see Murphy have compassion for another individual, seeing them die. And it devastated him. I mean, he just had this sad look on his face, really realized how special Serena was to, carry his child and give birth to his child and give her life for her and the rest of the group. And it was just very admirable. I will miss Serena. I think she was a great character. I really do wish that she could have stuck around for a little longer, but that's Z Nation. You just never know what's going to happen, and they reaffirmed it again. If a character is meant to die, they're going to die, and Serena does. And the episode ends. The group ends up, driving away from the Mennonite camp, and they're sitting by the roadside. 10,000 and Addie are recuperating, and you have Murphy, who is, actually embracing his child. I kind of was a little concerned about Murphy's parenting skills. Would he actually be able to step up? He can. He does care about this child, which is very nice to see. And this may be the start of seeing a new Murphy, somebody who is different, who does care a little more. I'll be interested to see how this baby influences him, but it may also be, dangerous for the group. He does decide to name her Lucy, so she does have a name. And they really do feel hopeful that the baby can be the sign of the future. That Lucy really is the first of her kind, somebody who is born from somebody who is immune from the virus, and you have Serena, who is a human who is alive. So, again, if what Dr. Currian said is true, and these are the kinds of individuals who will survive over humans and zombies, then, Lucy definitely is very special. But the next episode may seem to indicate that maybe she may be more of a threat than she is a benefit and a hope for the future. And that's just something we'll have to wait and see. And once more comes out, I will do a predictions video for it. But I think it was an amazing episode. Z Nation has kicked butt these first 5 episodes. I'm telling you, I'm very impressed with the things that they are coming out with. They're keeping the action going, and they're doing such a very good job. Something I wanted to see, them starting to connect the story together a little more, and it's finally happening. Every one of these episodes, you can connect it back to something, and it's just extraordinary, and I love it. I love the direction that they're going. I hope that it continues this way, and I cannot wait for next week. So thank you, everybody, for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please do not be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.